I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Emily, completely shattered the life we built together. We've been married for 8 years, and honestly, I always thought we had a pretty good thing going. Not perfect, sure, but stable. She's always been a bit of a bitch, sarcastic, quick to snap, never shy about throwing a comment that cuts deep. Still, I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Lately, though, I'd been sensing something off. Small things at first, her phone always face down, disappearing into the bedroom for long stretches, brushing me off when I tried to talk about our future. She'd get defensive whenever I asked her about her sudden secretive behavior, saying I was paranoid or overthinking. Classic Emily. She loved to lie her way out of things, making excuses, turning the tables. And I bought it, at least for a while. The real trouble started about 3 months ago, right after she finished her recovery program. She'd been in and out of rehab for alcohol, and I thought maybe she was just trying to get her shit together. We went to counseling, and I assumed things were better. But then I started noticing weird stuff. She'd be unusually secretive about her phone, sometimes taking calls in the bathroom or hiding it when I was in the room. She'd go out with her friends more often, but I'd catch her changing plans suddenly and lying about where she was. One night, I decided to check her phone. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I was feeling paranoid, and something about her recent behavior was just off. I grabbed her phone when she was in the shower, and what I found made my stomach drop. There were messages, texts that weren't just friendly, flirtatious stuff. No, they were more explicit. She was messaging some guy, Jake, her sobriety coach, I later found out. They'd been talking for weeks, apparently meeting up during her therapy sessions and after hours. And here's the kicker, she lied to my face about everything. Said she was working late, going to therapy, doing everything by the book. She told me she was committed to her recovery, that she was focused. But her messages told a different story. They were intimate, suggestive, full of promises and dirty talk. She'd even told him she loved him, which made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. I never suspected her of being that kind of person, especially not with someone she was supposed to be working with professionally. I felt numb, honestly, shocked, betrayed, and furious. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face for so long? I was just starting to trust her again after everything she'd been through, and now I find out she's been cheating on me, physically and emotionally, right under my nose. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. I didn't sleep that night, just stared at her texts, trying to process what I'd uncovered. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there, clear as day. The worst part is, I knew she would deny it, spin some bullshit excuse. That's her MO, lie, deny, act like I'm crazy. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it anymore. I needed to confront her, get some answers, and figure out what this really meant for us. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to fight for her or just walk away, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. Not anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. The weight of what I saw the night before was pressing down on me so hard I could barely breathe. I kept flipping the phone over in my hands, trying to convince myself it was some kind of twisted mistake, but deep down I knew better. Emily had lied so many times before, but this was a whole new level. She'd been sneaking around, lying, cheating, all while pretending everything was fine. I decided I had to face her. I waited until she was in the kitchen making coffee, acting like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, feeling my fists clench involuntarily. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing, that bitchy smirk creeping back onto her face. She probably thought I was overreacting, or maybe she thought she could talk her way out of it again. "Hey babe," she said, all sweet and innocent, like she had no idea what I was about to drop on her. Morning. I looked at her, my voice trembling but steady. "We need to talk now." Her face shifted, a flicker of annoyance crossing her features. "What about?" "What?" I pulled out her phone and laid it on the table, sliding it toward her. "What the hell is this, Emily? These messages, these texts, you've been lying from the start. You've been cheating on me with Jake, haven't you?" Her eyes widened, then she scoffed, crossing her arms. "What are you talking about? Those are just messages. It's nothing." "Nothing, nothing. You've been sneaking around behind my back, lying about everything, and you call it nothing. Do you even care how much you've hurt me?" I could feel my voice rising, my heart pounding. I found out you've been meeting him during rehab, during therapy sessions, probably when I was supposed to be trusting you. How long has this been going on?" She rolled her eyes, her tone dripping with contempt. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. It's nothing serious, just some stupid messages. We're not even having sex." "That's not the point," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "You're lying, Emily. I saw the messages, the way you talked to him. You're in love with him, aren't you? Or maybe you already are. Or maybe you were just bored and wanted some excitement. Whatever it is. I don't care, I'm done." She narrowed her eyes, scoffing again. "You're crazy. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe if you weren't so paranoid, I wouldn't have to lie." That was the moment I saw the real her, the bitchy, manipulative side. She kept lying, twisting everything around. She insisted she was just talking, that she hadn't done anything physical, that it was just a stupid mistake. But I knew better. I knew her mind, her attitude. She loved to lie, to twist things, to make herself the victim. It hit me then. This was not just some fling or a one-night stand. It was emotional, it was physical, and it was ongoing. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and confusion all at once. I wanted to shake her, scream at her, tell her how much she destroyed everything we had. But I just stood there, feeling like my legs might give out. I told her to leave the house that day. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore, not with that smug, bitchy look on her face. I told her I needed space, that I'd think about everything. I watched her grab her purse and walk out, her heels clicking on the tile like she didn't give a fuck about the damage she'd done. Once she was gone, I sat alone in the quiet of the house, feeling emptier than I ever had before. I went through all the memories, the good times, the fights, the promises. All of it suddenly felt worthless. I was crushed. Angry at her, yes, but also furious with myself for not seeing it sooner. How did I not notice? How did I miss all those signs? My mind kept racing. I couldn't help but picture her and Jake in some dirty office, in some secret hotel, doing things I never imagined she'd do. The betrayal cut deep. I'd trusted her more than anyone. And now I just felt stupid for ever believing she was really committed to us or her sobriety. That day, I decided I would get to the bottom of this, no matter what. I wasn't just going to sit around and let her lie her way out of it. I needed a plan, and I knew I'd find a way to make her regret it. That's what revenge was about now, making her see what she lost. Making her realize she couldn't just lie and cheat her way out of everything. This was only the beginning. After she left that day, I was a mess. I spent hours digging through her phone, trying to find anything else that might explain how deep this went. I needed to understand her mindset, her reasons, if there were any. Honestly, I wasn't surprised that she lied. That's what Emily did best: lie, manipulate, twist everything to her advantage. But finding those texts, seeing her admit she loved Jake, it made my stomach turn. I took screenshots, saved everything I could find, and then I started thinking about what to do next. I knew confronting her again wasn't going to fix anything. She'd lie, deny, probably accuse me of being paranoid again. I needed leverage, proof, something concrete. That's when I remembered the security cameras installed in the recovery center. It wasn't something I kept track of, but after the theft incident last month, they put in cameras all around the place, especially in the office where she worked with Jake. I did some digging, called the center, asked about the footage, and it turned out they had several recordings from the last few weeks. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I could catch her in the act, or at least see some undeniable proof of her betrayal. I scheduled a time, pretending I was just curious about the security footage for some reason. The day I finally saw it, I sat in my car outside the center, heart pounding. I knew this was a gamble. If I saw her sneaking around, it was over. If I saw her and Jake, well, that would be a game changer. The footage played, and I watched in disbelief as Emily walked into the office during her scheduled session times, sometimes with Jake, sometimes alone. But then the real shock came. One particular clip showed her in the office, leaning over his desk, whispering, close enough that their faces were inches apart. They exchanged kisses, soft, tender, unmistakably real. It wasn't just talking or flirting anymore. It was something more, something I hadn't wanted to see. My stomach twisted, and I felt my fists clench so hard I thought they'd shake apart. That was my wife. My wife, The woman I'd trusted, making out with her coach during her supposed recovery. How stupid could I have been? All those years, all the signs, and I still didn't see it coming. Seeing her kiss him on the footage was like a punch to the gut, but then came the next part that made me want to scream. They moved from the office into a nearby storage room. The door shut. I couldn't see what was happening, but I knew. I just knew. The way she kept looking over her shoulder, the way she was sneaking around, hiding her real intentions. I guess I must have sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, unable to process what I was watching. My mind kept racing through memories of us, of how she used to be, of all the times I'd believed in her. That moment, that image of her in the storage room, confirmed everything I'd suspected and more. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively lying, hiding, betraying me behind my back every chance she got. I felt betrayed on a level I'd never experienced before. The anger boiled over. I wanted to destroy her, confront her, make her feel what I was feeling. But I also knew I'd need to be smart. I could just go storming in. I needed a plan, something calculated, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I started to think about how to use this footage, how to make her see that I had proof, undeniable evidence. That night I sat alone, reeling from what I'd seen. I was furious, humiliated, and painfully hurt. I kept asking myself how I missed all of it, how I could have been so blind to her lies. I wondered if she'd ever truly loved me, or if she just wanted the thrill of sneaking around behind my back. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was okay. Either I fought for this marriage or I cut her out completely. And I was leaning toward the latter, but I hadn't made a final decision yet. What I did know is that I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I was going to expose her, make her face what she'd done, and see if she still had that smug, bitchy attitude after she realized I had all the cards. That's when I started planning my next move, knowing full well this was only the beginning of what would be a long, painful journey. The next few days were a blur of planning and trying to keep my emotions in check. I didn't want Emily to know I had the footage yet. I needed to approach this carefully, like a chess game. If I played my cards right, I could turn her lies against her and finally get some answers. I started by gathering all the evidence I had, screenshots, copies of the footage, everything I could use to prove she'd been lying for weeks. I also decided I'd record my conversations with her, just in case she tried to deny everything again. Honestly, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Seeing her with Jake, knowing she'd been lying and cheating, those images haunted me. I kept replaying them in my head, trying to find some shred of the woman I thought I knew, but she was a stranger now. She turned into this manipulative, bitchy version of herself, someone who could betray her husband so easily. I've got to admit, I was bitter, hurt, and furious all at once. I waited until the weekend when she came back home, acting like she hadn't done anything wrong. Her attitude was typical, snippy, dismissive, throwing little jabs about how I was crazy for snooping around. She kept insisting she was just stressed, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just something stupid. Yeah, whatever. I didn't buy her shit anymore. She was lying to my face again and again, and I was sick of her bullshit. That night, I finally decided I'd confront her for real. I told her I had something important to say, something she needed to hear. She looked suspicious, but she played it cool, at least on the surface. I sat her down in the living room, pulled out my phone, and started playing the footage. I wanted her to see it herself, to understand how badly she'd betrayed me. Her eyes widened as the images played, the kissing, the sneaking around. She tried to deny it at first, claiming it was just a kiss, that it didn't mean anything, that it was stupid and nothing serious. But the evidence was right there, undeniable. I saw her face twist into a mix of anger and guilt, but she kept trying to spin it, saying I was just jealous or overthinking. That only made me more furious. I told her I'd had enough, that I knew she'd been lying all along, that she'd been cheating on me with Jake, and that I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. I asked her straight up, why did she do it? She snapped back with a bunch of excuses, how she felt trapped, how Jake made her feel alive, how I was just boring or stupid. She was bitchy, dismissive, as usual, trying to make herself the victim. But I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I told her I was done with her lies, her manipulations, her cheating. I told her she could pack her shit and leave, or I'd make her leave myself. At that moment, I wanted her to understand that she'd crossed a line, one she couldn't come back from. Watching her get defensive, trying to deny everything, only confirmed I'd made the right choice. That night, she stormed out, cursing and screaming, trying to paint herself as the victim again. But I knew the truth now. I'd seen her true face, bitchy, selfish, and utterly unfaithful. I spent the night alone in the house feeling a mixture of relief and despair. The pain was sharp, but part of me felt like I'd taken control for the first time in weeks. I'd finally confronted her, gotten proof, and stood my ground. The aftermath was just as brutal. She refused to own up at first, trying to call me crazy, claiming I misinterpreted everything. But I had the recordings, the texts, the footage, everything I needed. I didn't even bother arguing anymore. I knew I'd have to figure out what I wanted to do next, whether to fight for the marriage or walk away for good. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. The truth was out, and I was finally done playing nice. Now I just had to decide how I was going to handle what came next. Would I try to save what was left, or let her go knowing she'd ruined everything? Either way, I knew my life had changed forever. And honestly, it's not the kind of change I ever wanted or expected. A few days after I confronted Emily with the footage, I started feeling a strange mix of relief and rage. Relief, because I finally had proof that I wasn't just paranoid or overreacting. Rage, because I'd been betrayed so deeply, so intentionally. I replayed that footage in my head 100 times, each time feeling more convinced that her betrayal went far beyond just some secret office affair. She'd been lying, manipulating, and sneaking around behind my back for weeks, maybe longer. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to just cut her out completely, to walk away and never look back. But another part of me wondered if there was any chance to salvage this, to somehow fix what she'd broken. Honestly, I was torn, hurt, betrayed, furious, and exhausted. Every time I looked at her stuff, her clothes, her shoes, I felt that familiar sting of heartbreak. She was still trying to act like everything was fine, acting bitchy and dismissive when I tried to talk about it. Typical Emily, deflect, deny, or dismiss. The thing was, I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I started planning an exit strategy. I contacted a lawyer and began figuring out what my options were. I also did some research on how to handle her emotionally, how to keep my own head straight while dealing with the fallout. I knew she'd try to turn this around, make me look like the bad guy, but I was done playing her game. The evidence spoke for itself. One day I decided to confront her again, this time more directly. I called her at work, told her I wanted to meet. When she came home that evening, she was her usual bitchy self, throwing attitude, acting like she didn't care. I kept my cool, though, and laid everything out on the table. I told her I had her on camera, that I knew she'd been cheating on me, lying, manipulating. She tried to gaslight me, calling me crazy, saying I was overreacting, but I didn't back down. I reminded her that I had everything, text messages, footage, recordings. Her reaction, she snapped. Started yelling, calling me all kinds of names, controlling, jealous, insecure. She accused me of spying on her, of ruining her life. She told me I was the one who was crazy, that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me or because I couldn't satisfy her. Honestly, it was just what I expected, her typical bitchy response, deflecting and accusing. She was so good at turning things around, making herself the victim, but I stayed firm. I told her I didn't want to be married to someone who lied and cheated, who disrespected me that way. I told her she could leave or I'd kick her out myself. That's when she finally broke down and started crying, fake tears, of course, trying to guilt me into letting her stay. She said she made a mistake, that she was sorry, that she'd change. But I knew better. I knew this wasn't some slip-up, it was who she was. I felt numb as she begged me not to throw her out, but I also knew I couldn't go back to that. I had to decide whether to give her a second chance or finally get rid of the toxic wreck she'd become. I told her I needed some time to think, that I'd consider whether I could forgive her. Inside, I knew I'd already made up my mind. I didn't want her anywhere near me anymore. That night I slept on the couch for the first time in years. The house was eerily quiet, except for my own thoughts. I kept thinking about everything, how I trusted her, how she betrayed that trust, how she lied to my face for so long. I felt like a fool, but also angry as hell. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. I knew I had to get out of this mess one way or another. The next step was deciding whether to fight for the marriage or cut ties. I knew I couldn't stay with her now. Too much damage, too much pain. I needed to get my life back, rebuild from this mess. But part of me was still torn. Could I ever really trust her again? Would I want to? Or was this the end of us? I still didn't have all the answers, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The truth was out, and everything was about to change. Days turned into a week, and I finally made the decision to separate from Emily. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay anymore. The footage, her lies, her bitchy attitude, everything had pushed me past my limit. I sat her down one last time, told her I wanted her to leave, that I was done pretending she was someone I could trust again. She didn't take it well, shrieked, called me all kinds of names, accused me of being obsessive and controlling. But I didn't care anymore. The truth was out and my mind was made up. She packed her bags in a fury, acting like she was the victim, trying to guilt me into changing my mind. I watched her walk out that door, her high heels clicking on the hardwood, like she didn't care about what she'd destroyed. As she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The house suddenly felt too big, too quiet. I knew I'd be okay eventually. But right then I felt a profound sense of loss, the loss of trust, the loss of what I thought was a life I built with her. In the days that followed, I focused on myself. I stopped blaming myself for her betrayal, though it was hard not to. I read through all the evidence again, making sure I had everything documented, just in case I needed it for legal issues or divorce proceedings. I started seeing a counselor, someone to help me process everything I'd been through. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but I knew I couldn't let it define me. I had to rebuild piece by piece. I also reached out to some friends, people I trusted. I told them everything, about Emily, about the footage, about how I'd felt betrayed and humiliated. They listened, offered support, and told me I deserved better. That meant a lot. I realized I'd been so caught up in trying to fix things and keeping the marriage alive that I'd neglected myself. Now I was finally starting to put myself first. As the weeks went on, I slowly started to feel like myself again. I got a new place, started focusing on my career, reconnecting with old hobbies I'd set aside. The pain of betrayal never fully goes away, but it gets easier to manage. I learned some hard lessons about trust, honesty, and the importance of listening to the little signs before they become big problems. I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough. People can betray you in ways you never imagined, and you have to be strong enough to walk away. Looking back, I can see how naive I was to think I could fix her, to think I was somehow responsible for her choices. But I also realized that I deserve someone who values honesty, who respects me enough not to cheat and lie behind my back. What she did changed me, but it also made me realize what I want and what I won't tolerate again. So here's my final takeaway. Don't ignore the signs. Trust your gut. And when someone betrays you this deeply, the best thing you can do is get out and start rebuilding. Don't let their lies define your life. Because in the end, you're the one who has to live with your choices, and I choose to move forward, stronger than I was before.